It was a huge weekend for the 2020 presidential race, and it's a huge week ahead. Super Tuesday is tomorrow. It's super because on that day, 34% of all delegates available are to be awarded. A big portion of that comes from Texas, with the second largest number of delegates up for grabs. And the candidates, of course, know that. Former Vice President Joe Biden, he's campaigning there today, holding rallies in Houston and Dallas. And this follows his big win in South Carolina Saturday. Let's get a lay of the land right now. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Marc Veasey of Texas. He's endorsed Joe Biden. Congressman, thank you for coming in.
Hello, Kate.
A win in South Carolina is something that we know that Joe Biden needed. Will Joe Biden win Texas?
Joe Biden is doing great in Texas, and I think that he is going to win Texas. I think he's going to have a very strong showing here. Of course, the polls in South Carolina showed the race being much tighter, and Joe Biden ended up winning nearly every demographic in South Carolina. He overwhelmingly won the African-American vote, and he convincingly won there. He won by a much larger margin in South Carolina than Bernie did in Nevada. And so I think that tomorrow is going to be great for the vice president, and he is going to do very well here in Texas, particularly here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Houston, San Antonio, and other areas of the state. Even in rural parts like East Texas, he is going to do very well.
We will be able to test your theory in a few short hours, that is for sure, Congressman. So Jim Clyburn, he had a blunt assessment of the Biden campaign this weekend. He was speaking to CNN. Let me play that. Listen to this.
We need to do some retooling in the campaign, no question about that. I did not feel free to speak out about it or to even deal with it inside because I had not committed to his candidacy. I have now. I'm all in it. And I'm not going to sit idly by and watch people mishandle this campaign.
He's talking about how the campaign, he said, has been mishandled and how it needs to be retooled. Do you agree?
Anything that our majority whip says needs to be taken seriously, and I'm sure that the Biden campaign is going to take the suggestions that Whip Clyburn gave to them. They're going to look at them very seriously, and if there needs to be some retooling, there will be some retooling. When Jim Clyburn speaks, people listen. He's been at this for a long time, and he knows what he's talking about, and I'm sure the campaign took that very seriously.
Are there areas that you see need retooling?
I would say that, right now after South Carolina, that we're going to continue to ride that wave. I think that a lot of the Super Tuesday states are very diverse, have a large African-American population and favor the vice president. And again, we're going to continue to ride the wave. And I want to remind everybody out there listening today, if you go back to 1992 and 2008, it was African-Americans in South Carolina that decided to send Bill Clinton as our nominee, and the same with Barack Obama. And I think that that's going to be the case this time around, too, in 2020. So I'm feeling really great about tomorrow.
Let me ask you about what happened last night. Pete Buttigieg, he dropped out of the race. He suspended his campaign because he says he looked at the math and he did not see a path. Are you in the camp right now, Congressman, of calling on other candidates facing similar math, like Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren, to do the same?
I don't see a path for the other candidates that are in the race. It's up to them to decide when they suspend their campaigns or when they end their campaigns, for that matter. But I just don't see a path. I mean, Buttigieg was polling very poorly with African-American voters nationwide, and he decided to drop out. And the same with Klobuchar. She's polling very poorly with African-Americans. And so Super Tuesday is not going to bode that well for her. But again, each of these candidates have to decide when they're going to drop out. I think that we're going to have a very long contest going into the summer. And so I look forward to that and look forward to continuing to talk about why I think the vice president is the best person to lead our party going into November.
And one person in the top tier is Bernie Sanders. And you have been quite blunt about your assessment and concerns about having Bernie Sanders if he would win the nomination. I've seen you say that you think that he's going to take the party down with him if he would win the nomination. I read that, and I also then wonder, what are you going to say if Bernie Sanders does become the nominee and folks are playing those quotes back to you over and over again?
Unlike Senator Sanders, he actually supported someone from the Socialist Workers' Party in 1980 over Jimmy Carter. He had some very harsh words to say about President John F. Kennedy and said that he was nauseated by his remarks that he made about Fidel Castro back in some interview he was given back in the 1980s. He had some terrible things to say about our nominee in 1984, Walter Mondale, and said that he was going to primary Barack Obama. I'm going to support whomever the Democratic nominee is. I always support a Democrat for president, and that's not going to change. And I would hope that if Joe Biden is the nominee, that this time around.
Right, but Congressman, right in what you just said in your lead up to "I will support the nominee" was pointing out, it was highlighting the word socialist and socialism and his criticisms of the party
because I'm
over
concerned
and over
about
again.
those
That's
things.
exactly. Go ahead.
Because I'm concerned about those things. It's not going to be like it was at the debate the other night in South Carolina. The Republicans will drill in on these things, and we have a lot to lose. The next president of the United States is going to choose at least 2 Supreme Court justices, I believe, and we need to make sure that that it is going to be a nominee that will vote with Kagan and that will vote with the liberals on the court. And we don't need to be trying to think about a rally that we're going to plan 2 years from now because Roe versus Wade is overturned. We need to make sure that we get a nominee in 2020 that will make sure that things like union protections, Roe v. Wade, voting rights protections, that there are jurists put on the court that will keep those things in mind and judge on them fairly.
Congressman, thank you for coming in.
Very seriously.
Let us
Thanks,
see
Kate.
what happens tomorrow. Look forward to having you on again. Thank you very much.